Welcome back to the Longacres Finance channel. It's time to take a look at the best Dividend Kings for the month of September. Many of you may know, but in case you do not, Dividend Kings are dividend aristocrats twice over, in that they have a 50-year history of consecutive dividend increases. That is a very impressive achievement, and one worthy of elite status. Now what is interesting is that not all Dividend Kings are dividend aristocrats, because in addition to having a 25-year dividend growth streak, which all Dividend Kings obviously have, to be a dividend aristocrat, a company must be part of the S&P 500 index and meet certain size and liquidity requirements. To be a dividend king, a company simply needs a 50-year dividend growth streak. There are no changes to the list of dividend kings for the month of September. I used the list of dividend kings provided on suredividend.com, which currently includes 32 unique companies. In today's episode, we will go over the performance for all the dividend kings in August. We will see how the 4 strategies that I believe could beat the Dividend King universe over the long term performed last month. We will take a look at how the buy and hold approach to each strategy is doing. And finally, we will see what changes, if any, are made to each strategy for the month of September. Let's kick things off by taking a look at the average return for all the Dividend Kings in August. The average return for all 32 Dividend Kings was 0.83%. This is the lowest positive return month for the Dividend Kings so far this year. It does, however, bring the year-to-date Dividend King return to 17.08%, which is a very nice return over a period of 8 months. 14 out of the 32 Dividend Kings posted negative returns last month. Having a 0.83% gain versus a loss for the month sounds much better. This is a perfect example of the level of safety you get from owning more than one stock. Let's take a look at how our first strategy, the Chowder stocks, performed in August. This strategy selects the 8 Dividend Kings with the highest combined current dividend yield and 5-year dividend growth rate. The 8 best stocks selected for the month of August were unchanged from July. If you recall, these 8 stocks posted a very weak return in July of minus 0.38%, while the Dividend King universe was up 1.71% for that month. Let's see if the strategy was able to bridge some of this gap in August. First up, we have Hormel that lost 1.81%, not the best start here. Next we have Lowe's that gained 5.81%, now that's much better. Next we have Altria Group that picked up 4.56%, also a very nice gain. Next we have Nordson with a 5.75% return, looking pretty strong so far with the exception of Hormel of course. Next we have Stepan with a 0.07% loss. Next we have SJW Group with a 1.07% gain. Next we have Cisco with a 7.35% return, the best individual return for the Chowder strategy in August. And finally, we have Universal Corporation with a loss of 2.99%. The average August return for the Chowder strategy is 2.46%. A very solid month with almost triple the Dividend King universe return. Definitely a positive sign after a weak return in July. If we take a look at the buy and hold approach to the best Chowder stocks, the month of August clocks in at 2.48%, 2 basis points better than the individual return. The buy and hold approach assumes you invest an equal amount of money in each of the chosen stocks each month, and you never sell your initial position. There were no new Dividend Kings added to this strategy in August, therefore we just added funds to the 8 original positions. But since the returns in this mock portfolio compound on themselves, it was able to earn us an extra 2 basis points. I just want to point out that this strategy may not always work out in our favor. Let's move on to strategy number 2. The 8 best Dividend Kings with the highest forecasted earnings per share growth. This strategy had one change from July to August. Cincinnati Financial was replaced by Dover. In July, this strategy returned 0.54%, which was better than the Chowder strategy, but still significantly below the average Dividend King universe return. Let's see if August was any better. The first stock on the list for August was ABM Industries, and it picked up 6.52% last month. A nice and strong start. The next stock was Dover Corporation with a 4.63% return. Next we have H.B. Fuller with a 4.57% return. So far the strategy is looking very strong. Next we have Lowe's with a 5.81% return. Next we have Nordson with a 5.75% return. Still looking very strong after 5 stocks. Next we have Parker Hannifin with a 4.6% loss. All the stocks can't be winners, but one poor return shouldn't hurt this strategy too badly. Next we have Stanley Black & Decker, also with a loss of 1.92%. And finally we have Cisco with a 7.35% return in August. A very strong finish for this strategy. The combined average return for the 8 best forecasted earnings growth Dividend Kings in August was 3.51%. A very solid second month for the strategy as it makes up lost ground from July and then some. Cincinnati Financial, the stock that fell off the list for August, had a solid return of 4.68% during the month. It remains in the buy and hold portfolio and should offer some alpha there. The buy and hold portfolio return for the highest forecasted earnings growth strategy in August was 3.53%. Similar to the Chowder strategy, we pick up 2 basis points of alpha in the buy and hold portfolio here as well. Let's move on to strategy number 3, which is the highest expected earnings growth combined with valuation. In this strategy, potentially undervalued stocks based on dividend yield theory are given a boost as we raise their expected growth by their undervaluation factor. And conversely, potentially overvalued stocks are penalized as their expected growth is lowered by their overvaluation factor. This strategy had the best return for July, picking up 3.4%. There were 2 changes to the 8 best stocks selected for August. SJW Group and Tootsie Roll dropped off and were replaced by Hormel and Stanley Black & Decker. Let's see what return this strategy offered in August. First up, we have ABM Industries with a 6.52% return. You may have noticed that there is some overlap amongst their strategies, but they do offer some uniqueness. The second pick was California Water Service with a return of 1.75%. Next we have HB Fuller with a return of 4.57%. Next we have Hormel with a loss of 1.81%. Next we have Lowe's with a gain of 5.81%. Next we have Parker Hannifin with a loss of 4.6%. Next we have Stanley Black & Decker with a loss of 1.92%. And finally Cisco with a very strong 7.35% gain. The combined return for the 8 highest forecasted EPS growth dividend kings combined with valuation for August was 2.21%. The strategy clocks in lower than the prior 2 strategies for the month, but still more than double the return of the dividend king universe. Both of the newly added stocks for August had negative returns, and even though SJW Group would have offered a 1.70% gain, Tootsie Roll lost almost 8% last month, and the total effect of the change for August looks to be a positive one for this strategy. The buy and hold portfolio for this strategy had a return of 1.99% in August, driven lower by the significant loss from Tootsie Roll. While that is still a respectable return for the month, it is 22 basis points below the strategy return. Let's move on to the 4th and final strategy, the Quant Strategy. In this strategy, we select the 8 dividend kings that have the highest Wall Street analyst rating. This strategy offered a solid 2.15% return for the month of July, finishing ahead of the dividend king universe. There were 2 changes for the month of August. Parker Hannifin and Stanley Black & Decker were replaced by Emerson Electric and PPG Industries. Let's see how the Quant Strategy performed in August. Up first we have once again ABM Industries with a solid 6.52% gain. Next we have Black Hills Corporation with a 4.77% gain. Next we have Emerson Electric with a 5.08% gain. Next we have HB Fuller with a 4.57% gain. Halfway through and it's looking very good for the quant stocks. Next we have Johnson & Johnson with a 1.14% return. Next we have Coca-Cola with a 1.26% loss. Next we have Lowe's with a 5.81% gain. And finally, PPG Industries with a 2.08% loss. The combined average return for the 8 best quant stocks in August was 3.07%. So the quant strategy finishes the month in second place, behind the fastest expected growth strategy. But this is a very strong second place finish, more than triple the return for the dividend king universe during the month. The 2 stocks that dropped off this strategy in August both had negative returns. Parker Hannifin lost 4.6%, and Stanley Black & Decker lost 1.92%. Once again, the change in August proves to be a good one for this strategy, seeing how Emerson Electric offered a very nice return. The buy and hold portfolio for the quant strategy had a return of 2.48% for August. That is 59 basis points worse than the strategy itself. So thus far, 2 of our buy and hold portfolios are doing better than the individual strategies, and 2 are trailing. I'm curious to see how this will play out in the long run. If we take a look at all 4 strategies side by side and the dividend king universe return, we can see that the forecasted EPS growth combined with valuation is still in first place, with a total return of 5.69% over the 2 months of data we have. In second place, we have the Quant Strategy with a total return of 5.28%. In third place, we have the fastest forecasted growth strategy with a total return of 4.07%. In fourth place is the Dividend King Universe with a total return of 2.56%. And in last place is the best Chowder Strategy with a total return of 2.07%. All 4 strategies crushed the Dividend King Universe in August, and only one trails the universe over the 2-month test period we have thus far. The buy and hold portfolio strategies look the same, with the forecasted EPS growth combined with valuation in the lead, with a total return of 5.46%. The quant buy and hold portfolio is second with a total return of 4.68%. The fastest expected growth is in third place with a total return of 4.08%. And the Chowder strategy is in last place with a 2.09% total return. Now that we have reviewed all of our strategies, let's see what changes, if any, were made for September. First up are the best Chowder stocks, and we have no changes here for the month of September. The 8 chosen Dividend Kings are Hormel, Lowe's, Altria Group, Nordson, Stepan, SJW Group, Cisco, and Universal Corporation. This is the only strategy that still hasn't had a change. The lowest Chowder stock in the top 8 is Cisco, with a Chowder number of 10.58. The next highest Chowder stock is American States Water, with a Chowder number of 10.42. It's not too far away, but for now we will stick with the same 8 Dividend Kings as last month. They seem to perform much better in August and July. Let's see if September will be the same. Moving on to the fastest expected growth Dividend Kings. And here we have one change for the month of September. Parker Hannifin falls off and is replaced by Cincinnati Financial. That makes a return to the strategy. So the 8 best Dividend Kings based on fastest expected growth for September are ABM Industries, Cincinnati Financial, Dover, H.B. Fuller, Lowe's, Nordson, Stanley Black & Decker, and Cisco. Moving on to strategy number 3, the forecasted EPS growth combined with valuation. Our best performing strategy thus far. And we have 2 changes here for the month of September. California Water Service and Parker Hannifin fall off, and are replaced by Nordson and Tootsie Roll. That makes a return to the strategy. So the 8 best Dividend Kings based on EPS growth combined with valuation for September are ABM Industries, H.B. Fuller, Hormel, Lowe's, Nordson, Stanley Black & Decker, Cisco, and Tootsie Roll. And finally, strategy number 4, the Quant picks, have 2 changes as well. Emerson Electric and Coca-Cola fall off, and are replaced by Parker Hannifin and Stanley Black & Decker, that both return to this strategy. PPG Industries and Emerson Electric both had the same Wall Street rating of 4.04, which is the lowest in the top 8 Dividend Kings. As a tiebreaker, I used the forecasted EPS growth rate combined with valuation, and the higher stock was PPG Industries. Therefore, they remain in the portfolio, and Emerson Electric is removed. So the 8 best Dividend Kings based on highest quant rating for September are ABM Industries, Black Hills Corporation, H.B. Fuller, Johnson & Johnson, Lowe's, Parker Hannifin, PPG Industries, and Stanley Black & Decker. In theory, each of the 4 strategies I outline here has the ability to offer better returns than the Dividend King universe in the future. But theory and reality are 2 different things, and therefore I am not personally recommending of these strategies to you. What you can take away from this series is that a strategy for selecting stocks does not need to be complex to be effective, and I hope to prove that it is possible to beat the Dividend King universe with at least one of these strategies over a longer period of time. You should consider your personal situation before adopting any investing strategy, and make sure you are comfortable with the risk and reward balance. Picking individual stocks carries more risk versus investing in an index or an ETF. Let me know which strategy you think will perform the best in the long run. Thank you for watching, don't forget to subscribe, and see you next time.